Welcome to the Fantasy NASCAR podcast brought to you by racefortheprize.com. Let's play around with some Xfinity lineups for the Darlington race. Two ways that you can go. You can completely avoid the hogs/dominators. I wouldn't even really call them dominators. I don't expect anyone to dominate this race. The top five cars that we usually expect to lead laps and run fast laps probably will cycle back and forth just based on the dynamics of a Darlington race. Also, pit road could be a deciding factor. We very well could get guys staying out at the end of a stage. We could have a competition caution. I expect the leading order to get mixed up. So you can definitely, given the way the slate is set up, because we didn't have qualifying or practice and having a lot of place differential in the back, you could very well completely avoid hogs/dominators. So we'll start by just doing that. William Byron is very expensive, but there is plenty of money to build lineups. It is not a problem. You can get him as a raw point play. He doesn't check off as the best point per dollar play, but as I mentioned, you got plenty of money. We'll start with the two obvious picks for me, which are John Hunter Nemechek, Sammy Smith. I talked about John Hunter Nemechek in the previous video. You can go over that, why I like him so much. Not really a problem for me at all in the Sam Hunt car. A seventh place projection, given attrition and top tier cars wrecking out. He's finished in the top 10 with a Hunt car in the past at Darlington. No worries there. Sammy Smith getting the ninth as well. Top 10 car. Again, as long as he avoids any wrecks. 7,500 for a junior motorsports car. He's starting in the back because he got into issues last week. And then we'll just jam in William Byron because it's not a problem. Then you've got the better point per dollar plays and C. Williams, DiBenedetto, Taylor Gray. As I mentioned before, in the previous video, Sieg was awesome at Texas. They were heading into a Dover race where they usually run well, and then everything went wrong. His car blew up. Perkins had a mechanical failure. Kyle had issues. DiBenedetto got into a wreck, although it wasn't terminal. There are concerns without practice that what's going to happen with these Sieg and Sieg allied cars. Could there be issues? Maybe we're reading too much into that, but for DiBenedetto, if the car is fine, for him to run 19th, he thought he was probably going to finish around 15th at Dover, and given the circumstances of the end of that race, he very well would have. 19th is very conservative, easy point per dollar play, and we may even just be able to get away from DiBenedetto and some of these guys and just chase raw points because we have money like Taylor Gray, who doesn't necessarily check out as a best point per dollar play, but can score more points. And if you've got the money, then you just go ahead and upgrade because Taylor Gray is going to have a little bit more upside. 11th might be a little aggressive of a projection, but I don't think it's that aggressive. Again, factoring in attrition, that's about where he would have finished, and maybe probably better given the issues at the end of Dover, although he was one of the issues at the end of Dover. It's a JGR car. I've gone over this in the previous video that I don't mind putting him in at 11th. So if we just go the easy route of taking Josh Williams, again, 15th, that's going to factor in probably a little bit of attrition, but the colored car has been running from 15th to 20th. It'll, sometimes his driver rating is not the greatest because he is kind of buying his time, but that's fine. We don't really want Josh Williams to race hard every single lap. And at 6,200 for a colored car, he's having a season where it started out rough, but it's turned around again. I talked about in the previous video. I don't mind going straight to Josh Williams for maximum savings. I don't mind Matt DiBenedetto. And then I've got 8,500, and I can go with money left on the table, take the better point per dollar play, but I can just spend up for Taylor Gray. And then it opens up some of these guys who you may not want to roster. They're not showing up as great point per dollar plays, but they are good raw point plays. And Kligerman might scare you a little bit, but again, you can leave money on the table. You can take Kligerman, should run around the top 15. You factor in attrition. Ninth place isn't bad, 37 points from him. Again, you can say the same thing for Jesse Love. He should run in the top 10. He's not going to jump off the board for anybody, and no one's going to really love playing him because they're chasing all this place differential. They're going to find ways to get to Eric Almirola, or they'll go to Custer and Allgaier. We'll do some of those builds in a second. But you can say the same for Carson Kvapil. Should run the top 15 all day, possibly even the top 10. I mean, that's what Kvapil did last week. Then he benefits from attrition. Cars wrecking out in the top 10, which we expect some of them to do. And he could even finish better than ninth. Ninth seems fine to me. That's 39 fantasy points. Those builds all work as well. You're taking Williams to Benedetto. You got Byron. You got Smith. You got Nemechek. You know, there's a lot of ways to go. If you take Sieg, leave him. I mean, and Sieg can get to 43, and I only have Sieg getting to 13th, right? He's had a great race at Texas, should run top 15-ish. You throw in attrition, 13 is not that bad. That's 43 raw points. 43 is better than 37. It's better than Love or Quapple, but they could sneak a little bit higher because if there is a little bit more chaos, you could see them sneaking up into the top 5 and bumping Sieg out. But that play works too. And some people will hesitate to leave that much money on the table, but the lineup works. Let's try to do one with Eric Almirola as well. So can we build Almirola into the lineup? And we would have to downgrade one of these guys. Let's just start by trying to jam in Almirola. And I don't think I really love Almirola that much. I've got him projected all the way to the top, but I don't know if that is too aggressive. Look, if we didn't have, honestly though, if we didn't have practice, or if we had practice and everything just went normal, we would expect him to be top 5. Do we really worry about him getting from 18th to 2nd in this field where we know that he and Tyler Allen have set up really good race cars before and run pretty well? The field's pretty good this week, but he should be a top 5 car. But I think it's much easier to project William Byron getting to where he gets on my projections of 8th and scoring 66 points. Then, I mean, if we run this race 100,000 times or whatever in your simulations, Byron's going to get to 8th more often than Almirola is going to get to 2nd. So I would elevate him in basically all lineups, and we have the money to spend. But if we wanted to jam in Almirola, we want to play it out. Also, if you are concerned about Byron not having practice, and I talk a lot about that in the previous video, you can check it out. Or you can just look at his other race at Phoenix. He finished 25th. But he got into a wreck in stage 3. And if you follow this link, it breaks down how quickly he drove from the back of the field into the top 10 and was going to be in contention, but he just got into an incident. He doesn't need to lead laps. He doesn't need to run fast laps. Just get in the top 10, which he'll walk his way there very quickly as long as he doesn't wreck. Anyway, so let's try jam in Almirola and see where that puts us. So we jam in Almirola. You can't go that direction. So you just downgrade Sammy Smith to whoever you want. Josh Williams, Ryan Sieg. Josh Williams is going to be the easiest one to give us maximum savings. That puts us at 5,200. So if you do want to get into Almirola, Byron, and Nemechek, which is fine, then you're down into this crew of drivers who I would highlight in this yellow. Now, if you look at this block down here, a lot of these guys, just based on how they got slotted because qualifying was rained out, are just not going to be in play. Retzlaff, Clements, who can have good days. I just can't see them scoring fantasy points based on their starting position. And I don't really, I mean, if you think this thing's going to go way bananas, then yeah, you could consider Smithley. Or if you really somehow need the 4,600 of Dawson Crams, I talked about in the video earlier this week, he's finishing the races and boosting based on attrition. But even if you give him the attrition boost, maybe he doesn't even get past 30, 29, 28. So they're not completely out of the pool if you want to go crazy and expect a wreck fest. But for pretty much, I don't think you need to touch those guys. And if I need maximum points, where it's like these guys can have decent days, but the raw points probably are more likely going to fall in the Blicky, Deegan, Fincham, Perkins range. Perkins is a seed car, mechanical failure in the last race. He is starting DFL, so he is a viable option, probably the most risky. Fincham, also very risky. The Gase car just seems to wreck every single week. But if there's anyone maybe that, well, I don't even want to say that. Maybe Fincham can get this thing to the finish. Why would he get it to the finish? I mean, the car we just haven't seen it finish races because it gets involved in issues. So it's kind of hard to evaluate. Does it have enough speed? It's not going to have any speed. Whatever. I don't really want to go in that route. So then you're left with Deegan at a challenging racetrack. She is starting 32nd. She's there if you have to, because you have to. You're trying, well, actually, you can't even afford her in this build. So don't have to cross that road. But you can get to Josh Bilicki jumping in the car this week for Gosselin. Gosselin had fast cars at Dover. And based on that speed from last week, and generally the speed in the Gosselin cars, you put in a little bit of attrition, then he's going to be your guy. 25th is all we got him to, and he could get a couple more spots, give or take. I mean, he should finish better than most of these drivers he's racing with in the backpack in that Lemons class. We always prefer, he's not going to have a problem beating the cars in the 30s. And then all he needs to do is just survive and get some attrition points, because there's so many cars in front of him that are probably going to wreck out at Darlington, get involved in issues. So that's fine. That would be the way to go if you're building in that direction. If you did want to get super cute and wanted to go with Blaine Perkins, which I don't really think is smart at all, then you can get up to 6,500. You can't get to C. You can get to Matt DiBenedetto. So that does open it up a little bit. If we took DiBenedetto here instead of, and then we take Brandon Poole, or you still can't get to, can you get to Deegan? So I got Nemechek, I got Byron, I got Almirola, I got Sammy Smith. Oh, I don't want to put a full lineup in the screen. So let's see. That doesn't work either. Anyway, so that's one way to build, obviously. And then let's see. I've operated under the assumption that Almirola finishes 5th and probably isn't the greatest play. We can go to Taylor Gray, see what this opens up. $7,000. Is there any of these kind of middle guys that we might overlook? Doesn't really put us in a place that I necessarily want to be in. But again, I just feel like jamming in Nemechek, Sammy Smith. If you want, I just don't see why you'd want to get rid from. Let's not go with the William Byron lineup. Let's go with the Eric Almirola lineup, since we are here messing around. And that gets us up to 8,200, and we're back to at least being able, I don't want to go to Jones. You can't get to any of these guys. But then if you wanted to go with Poole, or not Poole, Josh Bilicki, you get all the way up to 9,400. That'll put you in Herbst's range, which, again, he could get top 5, but he just never seems to finish these races. I think ultimately we're going to end up leaving money on the table. You can get the Sam Mayer. I would rather chase place differential elsewhere. These guys are back on the board and you're leaving salary on the table. That's fine. Well, what we could do is, if you take Kligerman, just messing around here. I mean, you can see the plays on the screen. This is the pool to mess with. We'll mess with some hog lineups here in a second, where we try to blend place differential with some of the hogs. You get $7,000. You can get the Sieg. You can get to DiBenedetto. You can get to Josh Williams. You can sprinkle in any one of those guys if you so feel inclined. And you're getting Taylor Gray, who can place differential, all those work as well. And you are getting a little bit more maximization of finishing position. Maybe you don't like the Parker Kligerman play all that much. You want something a little bit more upside, like a Jesse Love or a Quapple. Let's see if we put Bilicki in where that sits us. And again, I can get up to 9,400. I already did that, right? Let's see what the DiBenedetto lineup looks like. And again, we've got our guys that can maximize finishing position. I can get up to 8,200, and I'm just a little short on being able to get these guys who really could possibly crack into the top 5. But I still can get to these decent point per dollar plays. Any other way that I want to kind of mess around with this? You can take any of them in or out. Let's say we get off of Taylor Gray and we go back to our original build with our maximum savings. And who maximizes finishing position at 9,700 in the Almirola lineup? And we can't quite get to Austin Hill. Obviously, if you downgrade one of these guys to Perkins, you can get to Austin Hill, which is a possible. Let's see. Well, before I go in the direction, let's just see 9,700 and see who we can maximize a little bit of finishing position and place differential. Obviously, these guys, tons of money left on the table. If we want to go there, I'm not incredibly bullish on them. And you can get to Herbst. You can get to Sam Mayer. Not really that appealing to me. So let's go to Perkins and see what it opens up. Well, we can't get to our hogs with this situation. We can get there if we take Balicki. All right, so that gives us 11,000. Basically, everybody is on the board, and you can get, if you want to have your 3-place differential with finishing position, then you can also get, if you think Smith is going to ultimately be the guy that leads more laps and finishes this thing, or Hill, or Creed, you can't get to Custer. You're going to need some real manipulation to get there. And that could be an interesting way to differentiate. You guys got to go a little cheaper, and you would have to go down the Chad Fincham route. I wouldn't want to do that. I would more likely go in here and chase one of these guys. But it's a possibility. Again, I think it's just safe to stick with the William Byron lineup. But let's try to... So that is... Let's see if we can do Williams with a hog. So I got Smith and Nemechek, who I think are very solid plays. And I would like to get some Taylor Gray, but I don't think it's going to work in this lineup. And let's just go ahead and pick whoever. I like Austin Hill a lot at this racetrack. And that leaves me with 10-5. And I can get another hog. It's fine. I can play 2. I would really like to find a way to get to William Byron in this lineup. If you really want to get super cute and super stupid, which I don't think this is worth doing at all. But it's a video. You can go down here and, yeah, you can go to anybody you want. And maybe, just maybe, I can get to... I don't think you can get to William Byron this way. Just short. You're just short. Good. Because otherwise people probably would be building that line. Blame Perkins, so you have to downgrade Perkins 1 notch to 4,700. So if you were going to go down that route, we've talked about him this week. We put the positive juju on him. So you throw in Dawson Cram, then you can get the William Byron. It's there. Look, you got a hog, you got place differential, you've got William Byron. As I mentioned with Cram, I know people are like, why is he even talking about... The one thing I'll say, and I've been talking about this all week. So Cram is finishing races. He is not running well, but on average, you got him starting... Man, 33rd is probably even too close to the front for him. But if you look, finishes a lot better than where he runs. Yeah, you probably go Fincham, actually. If we are betting on attrition, then Fincham is the best bet to maximize attrition. And if he just goes out there, turns laps, and doesn't wreck, then, yeah, you probably go in that direction. And instead of Cram, you take Fincham, and you can get to William Byron, and you can probably get any hog you want. Let's do that. Let's take out Cram. Let's take out Hill. Let's put in Chad. He's starting dead last. Or, well, almost dead last. And we'll take William Byron. I got 10-2. I can get Austin Hill. Can't get to Smith. Can't get to Creed. But I can get to Austin Hill. And, yeah, that can work. It doesn't necessarily need to lead the race or be the best hog either, really, at 10,000 if he's just a better point per dollar play. That's a way to go. That's an option. Really don't want to downgrade anymore. I mean, that is kind of silly. All right, let's go back. I still think like the way that I want to go is just William Byron, Josh Williams. You got 8,500. You can leave money on the table with Ryan Sieg, who can get 43 fantasy points. That's still a lot of fantasy points. You know, I mean, we look over here, that's plenty. You can get Taylor Gray instead, who could have a little bit more upside, 45 fantasy points. That's fine. You can also, at 8,500, think about these guys. Love, Quapple, and Kligerman. All of them could get a little bit more. I got them as 8th and 9th, only really getting 40 and 39 right now compared to these drivers. But you can make a case that they can get 3 or 4. I mean, look, at 8th, could Love, given some situations unfolding, get into the top 5? Yes. And so you add 6 fantasy points onto that. That's a 46. That's better than Zeke. Same thing for Carson Quapple. You want to go have fun with Brandon Jones? I don't really want to do that. I think that pretty much wraps it up. I would just chase place differential, and if you want to throw in a lineup that goes a little bit different with a hog, I just think playing it safe. Obviously, in cash, you're just going to Jamin Byron, you're going to Jamin Nemechek, you're Jamin Smith, you're jamming in all these guys. I guess if you want to be a little different and try to predict who's going to lead the most laps and finish up front, it's going to be between Smith, Hill, Creed, and Custer. I am leaning a lot Hill. I haven't talked anything about Allgaier, but at 11,500, if we do think that the laps are going to get spread out based on cautions and pit road and no one really running away with this race, and the competition's pretty strong. This isn't an easy race for Allgaier. We've got Almirola in field. We've got William Byron that's going to make his way up there eventually. Nemechek is going to run well in this race. Taylor Gray hasn't been bad. The JGR cars haven't been bad. The Junior Motorsports cars have been competitive. And then also factor in Justin Allgaier just can't finish these races. At 11.5, I'm probably like, it's just not a priority for me. He might score a bunch of points, but they're not guaranteed. And I would say the cheaper options have just as much upside. I mean, Chandler Smith's kind of fallen off the radar a little bit recently, but he very well could just jump right back in the mix, right? John Hunter Nemechek was dominant in both of these Darlington races last season. So Chandler Smith, I know it's not the same crew chief, not necessarily the same situation, but he is having a good season until some recent events. He should be fine. Creed's always kind of the unique situation. I mean, he ran well at Dover, almost won that race. So you could throw him in. Let me one last time try to build. Yeah, that's pretty much where I go. Let's just one last time try to build around getting a hog in. And we've already jammed in an Almirola too. You want to downgrade Byron and go with Almirola, I think that's fine. But I really think that I just like Byron more, Smith more. Obviously, Nemechek is the absolute priority at the moment. And these guys just, it seems like galaxy brain to get away with them or get away from them. And maybe you don't like Josh Williams as much. You think, hey, 15 is a little too much. That's fine. You can go with Taylor Gray, and I think we can still build a pretty good lineup with $7,000. You can get Ryan Sieg, and just have a regular Ryan Sieg day. You're good to go. I think that's fine. Anyone else in that range where, yeah, I think we covered it. Hopefully this helped you. Share, like. That's pretty much the directions to go in with your lineups. Have a good day. Thanks for joining me once again. Blessed to have you. Love you guys. Trip to Light, fantastic.